Have you ever imagined helping a stranger and discovering that he's hiding a secret that could change everything? If you love stories full of mystery, twists, and true love, this video is for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new adventure. Let's uncover the secrets together and dive into this emotional plot. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay updated on everything. Ana had always been a simple woman. She lived in a small apartment in the city center, where her nights were spent between books and notes, trying to turn her dreams into reality. Her life was peaceful, until one cloudy autumn morning, she found herself facing a situation that would change everything. She was on her way to work when she noticed a man standing on the corner, helpless, sitting on the sidewalk. He was dressed simply, with worn clothes and messy hair, but his eyes, despite their exhaustion, carried a depth that Ana couldn't ignore. She paused for a moment, hesitant. Her instincts pushed her to approach him. "Do you need help?" Ana asked softly but firmly. The man raised his gaze and smiled faintly. "I have nowhere to go, but I'm not asking for money. Just maybe a conversation," he replied, his voice almost lost, as if he was speaking more to himself than to her. Ana wasn't one to ignore other people's suffering. She let him talk, listening carefully. He shared how he had lost his job and been forced to leave the home where he lived. He didn't want to beg, but circumstances had left him with no options. Ana, who was also facing financial struggles, felt a deep empathy for him. She decided to offer him a coffee and a place to talk more. After all, she knew how a simple act of kindness could make a difference on a gloomy day. As they walked to the cafe, Ana's curiosity grew. Who was this man? What had led someone so worn out to be in this state? She tried not to ask too personal of questions, but something about him intrigued her. His name was Miguel. That much she knew. But deep down, Ana had no idea that behind his simple clothes and tired expression, Miguel carried a secret that would change her life forever. The cafe was small, but warm, with a faint scent of cinnamon and fresh coffee filling the air. The quiet hum of the barista behind the counter blended with the soft clinking of mugs and the quiet chatter of other customers. Ana led Miguel to a corner table near the window, where the view of the street outside was partially obscured by the misty morning. As they sat down, Miguel seemed more relaxed. He took a deep breath, as if savoring the brief moment of calm, before looking at Ana with a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability. Ana noticed that his eyes, though tired, had a spark of something deeper, something she couldn't quite place. "I didn't think anyone would offer me kindness today," Miguel said, his voice quieter now, almost hesitant. Ana smiled gently, stirring her coffee. "It's the least I can do. Sometimes we all need a little help to get through the day." Miguel nodded, his gaze drifting to the steam rising from his cup. There was a long pause before he spoke again. "I'm not used to depending on others. I've always been independent, had everything figured out, until recently. Losing my job, everything fell apart so quickly, I don't even know how to ask for help." Ana's heart ached hearing his words. She knew the feeling all too well, the fear of not being able to stand on your own, the pride that made you hide your struggles. She couldn't help but relate. "I understand. It's hard when everything you've built starts to crumble, but it doesn't mean you're weak to ask for help. Sometimes it's just the first step to getting back up." Miguel looked at her, his eyes searching hers, as if he were trying to see something beyond her words. There was something about her, something familiar in her kindness. "I can't thank you enough for this. I don't know why you'd bother with someone like me." Ana tilted her head slightly, looking into his eyes. "Because we all deserve a second chance, Miguel, even if we don't always know how to ask for it." There was a moment of silence, the weight of his unspoken thoughts filling the space between them. Ana didn't realize it yet, but she had just given him more than just her time. She had given him a glimmer of hope. And what Ana didn't know was that Miguel's gratitude was the beginning of something much bigger, something neither of them could yet see. The following days felt strange for Ana. She had always been focused on her work, her small world revolving around her job, her apartment, and her quiet routine. But now, there was an unexpected emptiness. She kept thinking about Miguel, about the pain he carried behind his words, the weight of someone who had once been successful, but now found himself on the edge of despair. His presence had touched something deep inside her. Miguel, on the other hand, had become a quiet force in her life. He texted her occasionally just to check in, though their conversations remained brief. His words were always polite, but Ana could sense that he was still hesitant to open up fully. It was clear that he was struggling with more than just his job loss. He had built walls and they weren't coming down easily. One evening, after a long day of work, Ana found herself scrolling through her phone when a message from Miguel popped up. It wasn't much, just a simple, "Hey, how are you?" But there was something in it that made Ana pause. It wasn't the usual casual greeting. There was a rawness in his words, an unspoken need that reached out to her. She decided to reply. "I'm doing well. How about you? Everything okay?" Seconds later, his response appeared. "Not really. I'm in a bit of a tight spot. I hate asking for help, but I could really use someone to talk to. Would you be willing to meet up tomorrow?" Ana didn't hesitate. She knew that sometimes, just being there for someone could make all the difference. The next day, they met at the same cafe, the place now becoming their little sanctuary. Miguel looked different, his face drawn, as if the weight of the world had been pressing down on him more than usual. He was still wearing the same old clothes, but Ana could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the kind that went beyond physical tiredness. As they sat across from each other, Miguel was silent for a moment, fiddling with the edge of his coffee cup. Ana gave him the space to speak when he was ready. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been keeping something from you. The truth is, I'm not really the man I've been pretending to be. I'm not exactly what you think." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She had never expected him to reveal something like this. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. Miguel took a deep breath and looked up at her, his gaze now piercing. "I'm not broke. I'm not struggling in the way I made it seem. The truth is, I'm a millionaire. But it doesn't matter. All the money in the world doesn't fix what's broken inside me. I've been hiding behind this disguise because I wanted to see if anyone would care for who I really am, not because of my wealth." Anna's breath caught in her throat. She sat there, speechless, trying to process the revelation. The man she had been helping wasn't who he had led her to believe, and yet the sincerity in his voice made her believe him. He wasn't lying. The pain in his eyes was real. Miguel's eyes softened, and he looked down again. "I didn't want you to think I was using you. I just wanted to feel like a normal person for once." Ana, her heart swelling with empathy, reached across the table and placed a hand gently on his. "I don't care about your money, Miguel. I care about you." It was a simple phrase, but it held so much weight. It was the truth. No wealth, no facade could replace the authenticity of what they had shared. Miguel looked at her, a small tear escaping his eye. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen. Truly seen. The revelation that Miguel was a millionaire shook Ana to her core. She had always seen him as a man in need, someone who had fallen on hard times, just like so many others. The idea that he had hidden his wealth was a paradox, and the more she thought about it, the more questions swirled in her mind. Why would someone with so much money live like this? Why keep up the charade? But the truth was, Anna's emotions were tangled. Part of her felt betrayed by the man who had gained her trust under false pretenses. Yet, another part of her understood. She had been so consumed by her own struggles that she hadn't taken a step back to truly consider why Miguel had done it. The pressure of wealth, the isolation it brought, the constant fear of being used. She could see it now, as if his secret had unveiled a deeper, rawer side of him. After their conversation at the cafe, things were different between them. Anna's curiosity had grown. She wanted to understand why Miguel had chosen this path, but she didn't know how to ask without seeming judgmental. Miguel, too, had become distant. He no longer texted her as often, and when they met, there was a lingering silence between them, awkward and unsure. Days passed, and Miguel's presence became more of a mystery than ever. He still came to the cafe when they agreed to meet, but the warmth that once filled the air was now overshadowed by a heavy, unspoken tension. Ana noticed the subtle changes, how his posture had become stiff, how his eyes no longer held the same depth of feeling. Something was eating away at him, and Ana wasn't sure how to help. One evening, after another brief and cold meeting, Ana finally gathered the courage to ask him the question that had been burning in her mind since their last conversation. "Miguel," she began, her voice soft but unwavering, "why did you hide this from me? Why pretend to be someone you're not?" Miguel ran a hand through his hair, a tired sigh escaping his lips. He avoided looking directly at her, instead staring out the window at the setting sun, the golden light reflecting off the glass. "I didn't want you to think I was just another rich man playing games," he said, his voice low and heavy. "I wanted to know if you'd care for me. For who I really am. Not for the money, not for the status. I wanted someone to see me, truly see me." Ana took a deep breath. She could hear the vulnerability in his words, and it made her heart ache. She could see it now, the walls he had built around himself, not because of his wealth, but because of the loneliness that came with it. "I understand more than you think," Ana said softly, her eyes meeting his for the first time in what felt like days. "You're afraid of being used, afraid of being seen as just your money. But you need to understand something, Miguel. What matters is who you are at your core, not the wealth, not the title." Miguel finally turned to look at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. It was as if her words were the first breath of fresh air he had felt in a long time. He was vulnerable, raw, and for the first time, he allowed himself to be completely open with her. "I'm not used to this," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Letting someone in, it's not easy for me." Ana smiled softly, her heart aching for him. She reached out and placed her hand on his, giving him the comfort he desperately needed. "It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to let people in. And I'm here, Miguel. I'm not going anywhere." As she spoke those words, a shift seemed to happen between them. The weight that had been pressing down on their conversations began to lift, and for the first time, Ana felt like they were truly seeing each other. Not as a millionaire and a simple woman, but as two people with their own scars, fears, and desires. And in that moment, something started to blossom. Something neither of them could yet fully grasp, but something that would change their lives forever. The days following their conversation were filled with an unspoken understanding. Ana had offered Miguel a part of herself, and though they still walked carefully around the subject of his wealth, there was a sense of connection between them. The tension that once hung in the air like a thick fog had lifted, but the weight of Miguel's secret still lingered, though Ana couldn't quite put her finger on it. Miguel began to open up to her more, but only in bits and pieces. He shared stories from his past, memories of his family, his childhood, small fragments of the man he used to be before life became complicated. Yet, whenever the subject turned to his wealth, he shut down. He'd become distant, retreating into himself as though his fortune was something he couldn't share, something that divided them. Ana wasn't sure how to handle it. She wanted to understand more. She wanted to know the truth, but she also didn't want to push him too hard. She knew he had been hurt before, that whatever had caused him to hide his true identity had left deep scars. It was one evening, a week after their last meeting, when Ana received an unexpected phone call. The number was unfamiliar, but when she answered, the voice on the other end made her heart skip a beat. "Ana, it's Miguel," the voice said, sounding strained, urgent. "I need your help. I've made a huge mistake." Miguel's words sent a chill through her. She immediately asked him what had happened, but he didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he told her to meet him at a nearby park, a place they had passed by many times but never stopped at. When Ana arrived, she found Miguel sitting on a bench near the edge of the park. He looked disheveled, his hands gripping the sides of the bench as if trying to hold himself together. His eyes were wide with panic, his face pale, and his entire demeanor was one of someone who had just been thrust into a storm. "Miguel, what's going on? What happened?" Ana asked, her voice trembling with concern. He looked at her, his expression a mixture of fear and regret. "I don't know how to say this, but I've been lying to you. Not just about being wealthy, but about everything. There's something I should have told you from the beginning, something that would have made all of this make sense. Anna's heart raced. She had no idea what he meant, but the tone in his voice told her that whatever it was something big. What do you mean, Miguel? She asked, sitting down beside him. Miguel took a deep breath, and for the first time, his eyes seemed to soften. I'm not just some guy who lost his job and ended up on the street. I'm involved in something much bigger. I've been hiding from people who want to use me for my wealth and power. I've been running away, trying to live a simple life, but it's impossible. And now they're coming after me. Anna's mind spun. She was shocked by the revelation, unsure how to process the sudden turn in the story. The man she had grown to care for, had trusted, was not who she thought he was. He was entangled in something dangerous, something that could change everything. Miguel's voice grew quieter as he continued, his eyes darting around as though expecting someone to appear at any moment. I didn't want to drag you into this, Ana. I wanted to protect you. But now I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Ana felt her heart ache for him. The fear in his voice was genuine, and as much as she wanted to ask more questions, she knew this was a moment of decision. She could turn away, protect herself from whatever mess he had gotten into, or she could stay and help him. Her decision was clear. I'm here, Miguel. I'll help you, whatever it takes. Miguel's face softened, his eyes brimming with tears, as though the weight of his secret had finally been released. You don't know how much this means to me, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. But Ana didn't know. She didn't know the depths of the danger they were now both in, or how much their lives would change from this moment forward. She only knew that she couldn't leave him to face it alone. The days that followed their meeting at the park were filled with tension. Ana found herself replaying Miguel's words over and over in her mind. He wasn't just a man hiding his wealth. He was running from something far more dangerous. It was as if everything she thought she knew about him had been shattered in an instant. Miguel had asked for her help, and though she had promised to be there for him, the weight of his revelation was now pressing down on her shoulders. How could she protect him from what he was running from? What did this dangerous situation really mean? Her curiosity had morphed into fear, but her feelings for Miguel only grew stronger with every passing hour. She couldn't walk away. She just couldn't. They had agreed to meet the next day to discuss what they would do next. Miguel had promised to tell her everything. He wanted to explain the situation fully, give her all the details, so she could understand why he had kept his distance, why he had hidden from the world. The cafe they usually met at seemed different now. The warm, familiar space that had once been a refuge felt cold and distant, as if the walls themselves had become a barrier between them and the truth. Ana arrived early, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew it was important to stay strong. For Miguel, for them. When Miguel finally arrived, he looked even more worn than before. His eyes were red, his face drawn with exhaustion. It was clear that whatever he had been running from was beginning to catch up with him. Ana, I owe you the truth, he said, his voice hoarse, like someone who had been carrying a burden for far too long. Ana nodded, her hands folded tightly on the table, trying to calm the storm brewing in her chest. She was ready to hear what he had to say. I'm not just being chased by a group of people who want to use my wealth. It's more than that. I've been part of a business, an underground operation. It was supposed to be a way to help people, to make the world a better place. But somewhere along the way, it turned into something else. Something dangerous. People who use their influence to control others. I wanted out, but when I tried, they threatened me. They told me if I left, I would be marked. I would never be safe again. Miguel's words hit Ana like a punch to the gut. The reality of what he was saying seemed almost impossible to comprehend. She stared at him, her mind racing. You were involved in something illegal? She asked, her voice trembling, trying to process the enormity of it all. Miguel lowered his head, ashamed. Yes, he whispered. I made a mistake, Ana. I thought I could control it, but it spiraled out of control. I've been trying to get away from them, trying to live a simple life, but they found me. And now they want something from me, something that could ruin everything. Anna's heart sank. The man she had come to care for wasn't just hiding from financial ruin. He was running from an entire world he had helped create, a world of power, manipulation, and fear. She didn't know what to do. The situation was bigger than either of them, and the dangers were closing in. But one thing was clear. Whatever happened, she couldn't abandon him now. "What do you need from me, Miguel?" Ana asked, her voice firm despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Miguel looked at her, his eyes filled with both hope and fear. He took a deep breath before speaking. "I need you to trust me, Ana. I need your help to get out of this, before it's too late." For a moment, Ana wasn't sure what to say. The weight of his plea hung in the air, suffocating. But then she realized something. She had already made her decision. She had already trusted him with her heart. And now, in this moment of crisis, she would have to trust him with everything else. "I'm with you, Miguel," she said softly, but with unwavering conviction. "I don't know how, but we'll find a way out of this. Together." Miguel's eyes softened, and a small, grateful smile tugged at his lips. He had no idea how they were going to escape the web he had become tangled in, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope. The days after their conversation were a blur of emotions and decisions. Ana couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She couldn't stop thinking about Miguel and the dangerous world he had been pulled into. There was a part of her that still couldn't fully comprehend everything he had shared with her. But now that the truth was out, there was no turning back. Miguel's situation was dire, and they had no time to waste. The people who were after him were ruthless. Miguel had told her they had spies, eyes everywhere. If they thought he was helping someone or trying to escape again, there would be no second chances. His life, and hers, would be in danger. The weight of the situation pressed down on Ana's chest, but she wasn't going to run away. She couldn't. The man she had grown to care for was at the center of a web that neither of them understood fully. But one thing she did know: she wouldn't let him face it alone. They spent hours in secret meetings, sketching out plans. Miguel, though experienced in dealing with high-pressure situations, was out of his element. His wealth had been his shield for years, but now it was a liability. He couldn't rely on the protection that his money had once provided. It was a curse, not a blessing. Ana suggested they go underground. She would use her connections, her knowledge of the city, her ability to blend in unnoticed, to help them disappear. They would take nothing with them, leaving behind everything that could be traced. The plan was to stay off the radar, avoid any technology or devices that could be used to track them. It would be risky, but it was their only option. The idea of disappearing scared Ana. It was a massive step into the unknown. They would have to leave their old lives behind, jobs, friends, family. She didn't know if she could do that. But when she looked into Miguel's eyes, the fear he had carried so long seemed to dissipate, replaced by a flicker of hope. She could see it. He was trusting her. He believed in their plan. He believed in her. "We can't keep running, Ana," Miguel said one evening, his voice filled with determination. "I've already lost too much, but I won't lose you too." His words were a plea, a promise. And though she was scared, a deep sense of conviction settled in her heart. This wasn't just about saving Miguel, it was about saving them both, from the lives they had been living, from the false personas they had worn, and from a future that threatened to swallow them whole. Ana and Miguel spent the next few days gathering everything they would need for their new life. Ana went to her apartment, packed a small bag with clothes and essentials. She gathered all the money she had saved up over the years and a few valuables she could use for the journey ahead. Miguel, for the first time in a long while, showed a side of himself that was calm, collected, almost as if he had been preparing for this moment his whole life. "We need to leave tonight," Miguel said, his voice steady, his eyes unwavering. "The sooner we're gone, the better." As the night grew darker, the tension between them was palpable. Ana's heart raced, her mind spinning with the uncertainty of their decision. But there was no turning back now. They were already in too deep. Together they left the cafe and walked into the unknown. Their footsteps echoed in the empty streets, each one taking them farther away from their old lives, into a future neither of them could predict. But as they walked side by side, Ana realized something. In that moment, she wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. With Miguel by her side, anything seemed possible. The road ahead was uncertain, but as Ana and Miguel drove through the darkened streets, there was a strange sense of relief that settled over them. They had left behind the chaos, the danger, and the lives they had known. For the first time in weeks, Ana allowed herself to breathe, to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, they could build a life of peace and freedom. Their plan had been simple: find a small, isolated town where they could blend in, where no one knew their names or their past. It wasn't glamorous, but it was their only option. As much as Miguel had built an empire of wealth and influence, it had all been based on falsehoods and lies. Now, he was nothing more than a man on the run, trying to find his place in a world that had abandoned him. The car's headlights pierced the darkness as they drove through winding country roads, the hum of the engine the only sound that filled the silence. Ana sat beside Miguel, her fingers lightly resting on the dashboard, her eyes watching the road ahead. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: fear, hope, and a strange sense of anticipation. "What happens now?" Ana asked softly, breaking the silence. She didn't know what to expect next. They had no plan beyond reaching this new town, no clear idea of what life would look like on the other side of this escape. Miguel glanced at her, a small but genuine smile tugging at his lips. For the first time in what felt like forever, his smile wasn't forced. It was real, soft, filled with warmth. He looked free. "Now," he said, his voice calm and steady, "we build something new, a life that's ours, with no strings attached, no lies, no wealth, no secrets, just us." Ana looked at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She had seen the depth of his pain, the weight of his past, and yet here he was, offering her a future, a chance for them to start over, together. As they reached the outskirts of the small town, Ana felt a shift within her. It wasn't just the change of location. It was the feeling that, for the first time, she was truly starting a new chapter in her life, one that was filled with possibility. The car rolled to a stop in front of a modest house with a small porch, its lights glowing softly in the night. Ana felt her heart skip a beat as she looked at the house. It was far from the luxury she had known, but it was theirs. It was real. "This is it," Miguel said, turning the engine off and glancing at her with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Our new beginning." Ana smiled and nodded. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult. There would be challenges, fears, and obstacles, but they would face them together. And that was enough. As they stepped out of the car and walked toward the house, the stars above seemed brighter, as if they too were welcoming them to this new life. Ana could feel the weight lifting from her shoulders, the burden of the past finally starting to fade. She had no idea what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face it. Together, they walked into the house, hand in hand, ready to build a future that was theirs alone. The past was behind them, and ahead lay a life filled with freedom, hope, and the chance to finally live truthfully.